Welcome to On the Table, a podcast about board games, card games, and tabletop war games. All right, welcome back to episode 73 of the On the Table Gaming podcast. And today I'm really excited because we're going to be talking about some of the huge changes that have been happening to Tabletop Simulator. And I've gathered the A team, the best of the best out there. And so I've got, you may remember my good friend Brian from episode 49, now Brian from On the Table, or as I've been calling him, Brian the Builder. So Brian, thanks for coming on.
Hello.
And Brian's the lead developer on the A Song of Ice and Fire Builder website now. And then we're also joined by two other kind of superstars, I think, at this point. If you're in the A Song of Ice and Fire Discord, these two individuals, you might know them by Bartender and Franks. They've made huge updates to the basic elements of the Tabletop Simulator mods, especially the tray. And so, first off, thank you so much, Sebastian, for coming on.
Hey, thanks for having me.
And Mika.
Thank you.
So, you guys have done, all three of you, I think, have done so much to grow the Tabletop Simulator side of this game. And before we get into talking about those elements, one of the things that's so cool about A Song of Ice and Fire is that it draws people from such a wide base of other games and hobbies and experiences. So maybe jumping in and starting with Sebastian, what's your gaming background and how did you find your way to A Song of Ice and Fire, the miniatures game?
Yeah, so when it comes to miniature games, I've started maybe, 24 years ago with a probably little known game called Demon World. Never really played it though, just painted the miniatures and collected stuff. And then what really drew me in was Confrontation from Rackham. I don't know if you heard of that.
Okay.
Lovely miniatures, was a great game until the company went bust, and that was that mostly. And yeah, I dabbled in quite a few tabletops and didn't really want to start a new one, so I didn't get on the Kickstarter or anything. But last year, a friend of mine who got the Kickstarter introduced me to the game, and I was at first really skeptical. I didn't like the charge rule. I thought, okay, rolling a dice for distance, that's kind of, I don't know. But then I played it, and I thought, so hey, this is actually really, really good. I like the interaction between the cards and the tactics board, and the combat units. It poses really sweet, how do you call it, dilemmas. So it's always have to, coordinate, get the right timing, and so it got a lot potential. So and luckily, a friend of my friend wanted to get rid of his side of the Kickstarter pledge for his Stark faction. And so I swapped my Malifaux collection for his Song of Ice and Fire collection. So
Nice.
that got me started, and then I didn't have a new or not an extra tabletop lying around. I just and ever since I think exclusively played Song of Ice and Fire now. So
Nice. And Mika, how about you?
Yeah, sure. So my background is more from the board gaming side. So I really wasn't a miniature war gamer before this game. The best that I could say that miniature game was Richard Borg's Battle Lore first edition. I'm not sure if anyone has known about it, but it's the Command and Color systems, same as Memoir before. So it was very let's put it this way, board gamey miniature game. So it's I hope I'm not insulting anyone by calling it a miniature war game. It wasn't.
It's got miniatures.
yeah, sure. So that's my best, but I kind of then found Kickstarter, and then I found this game. So I backed it in the Kickstarter and went quite overboard because I was kind of looking for a miniature game. I had played some miniature games, never kind of bought myself in, but I had friends who played, so they let me borrow their miniatures, and we kind of played a kind of demo game, but it never kind of got to me. But then this game got to me because Game of Thrones, it was very good IP, so was very interested about that.
Yeah.
And since that, because kind of earlier I was kind of Eurogamer, so if I'm using these obsolete terms, Euro and American historical terms, so I used to be an Eurogamer, but now I'm noticing that I start to be a more American gamer, even though I'm from Europe. That I like miniature games actually now. That even in the board games, like some such titles as Nemesis or Lord of Hellas, they are board games, but they have cool miniatures, and it's cool to have cool miniatures.
I think that's like such a great example of the appeal of A Song of Ice and Fire too. I think so many people I've talked to have come from a board gaming background, or also a lot of people coming from like Magic, really liking the card play, and this being like a good transition into miniature games. Brian, how about you? How did you first hear about, or what's your gaming background, and how did you end up here at A Song of Ice and Fire builder running things?
Sure. Well, I first heard about it when you said you were backing it on Kickstarter, and that's you were very excited about it, and tell us talk about it all the time. I think at this point I've played unfortunately only 2 or 3 games. I definitely like the concept, as you're mentioning the cards. I really like that concept of sort of having the 2 types of play, and also the non-combat units kind of influencing it. I think it's sort of very interesting mechanics. But yeah, unfortunately, I'm already kind of completely invested in another war game, War Machine, and so at the moment I I can't
can't afford all the. I gotta trade you some of my old War Machine stuff.
Yeah, I might. Maybe I'll try out your circle stuff.
So we've been knowing each other since like middle school, and so we've been longtime gaming buddies. And unfortunately, you're just a little too far away. You're like what, an hour and a half by train.
Yeah.
So we can't get together that often. But it's been fun collaborating with you again.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that you're back here, over here, helping us with on-table gaming, and especially with the builder.
Sure, it's been a lot. It's been fun. I've enjoyed it, especially given the current situations. It's a nice thing to spend a lot of time on, which is building out.
And I know you've been waiting and waiting for stuff that's more monstrous to come out, and I know the Giants have been calling to you. I think you're waiting for maybe some dragons or something that might be on the horizon. So here we go.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
So, for all of you guys, then you've been really building out the A Song of Ice and Fire capabilities on Tabletop Simulator. So the original creator of the most popular A Song of Ice and Fire mods is Z Games. And it seems like he's been kind of away for a while. And in the interim, it was mainly being supported through really the tireless efforts of people like Peter, you got Corn Halfhand on the Discord, and this other guy, Rorschach, who I think is like Mance Raider now is his subtitle. Those guys have been really kind of helping maintain the game through save files for maybe the past, 9-10 months. But the units were being updated, but there was some kind of areas in the Tabletop Simulator mod itself that were a little bit unpolished. What kind of prompted you guys to jump in and start making these really awesome changes? And I guess maybe what were some of these first changes that you've made?
Sebastian has been doing the most of the things that you currently see in the movement trays and such things. So I was mostly annoyed by the figurines not sticking to the tray. That was like the biggest problem that I had with the game, because that really caused some downtime and kind of breaking the flow of the game. So I was like looking into, as I said, I kind of was from the Euro gaming side, so I was almost thinking that should I kind of make a solution which doesn't even use figurines. Sorry guys, I know this is a shocker, but I was like really starting to think that because this doesn't work actually, that do I just kind of make a number dial there that says that this tray has now 12 units and it's just mentioned by some number, the 12. Horrible, I know.
Oh, the humanity! Wow,
yes.
I got a shiver.
Yes. So, but then luckily, the Tabletop Simulator just recently, like 2 weeks ago, had a patch 12.3, and I happened to notice the patch notes. I usually don't read the patch notes, but this time I read it, and I noticed that there is this new attach functionality that it was kind of originally, I think, meant for these kind of miniature war games where you can replace the hands of the miniatures. So that, for example, now I choose this weapon for this miniature. So they added this kind of super glue functionality in Tabletop Simulator. And to glue those weapons that they don't kind of fall off, like we have noticed that they easily fall off. So then I realized that this is exactly the thing that is needed for those trays. Of course, it's not the perfect solution. It kind of makes it a solid object, then that all of those figurines are then melted into the tray. But luckily, there is also a command then to deattach them. But it causes some new problems. But at least the clunkiness of that previous thing has gone past now.
Oh, that was the worst. that was so bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
especially
that's
after loading a save game, that would always mess things up.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. So luckily, kind of that tabletop simulator patched that, and I kind of then immediately, right after that patch notes, I read them, and then I started immediately investigating it. And to be honest, I hadn't done any Lua script coding. I have a coding background, but that was kind of first thing that I actually started to look into how to code with tabletop simulator. So quite quickly I was able to catch it up, luckily. But that's mostly what I have done. So the rest of the stuff that you can see at the moment in the trays is most about what Sebastian has done.
Well, do you have so you have a background in programming though?
Yes, kind of. I studied programming and I was going to be a programmer, but then something else happened. I kind of got a quite generic knowledge of programming, but I did never like specialize, or let's put it this way, that if I specialized, I happened to specialize in dying languages. Like I'm from Finland, so of course Nokia, as we pronounce it. The Sybian was the language in there. So, but then that of course ended. So it was kind of not really useful. So I'm still in a kind of coding area, but I'm more in the quality side. So I was the kind of tester, and now I'm a release lead. So kind of managing.
Well, thank goodness you get that experience here to help test and polish things off.
Sure, yeah.
How about you, Sebastian?
My coding background, I work as a programmer. I've started that about 12 years ago, or 13 actually, in the company I'm with for the time. And in between, I did some consulting work for the company, but at some point, the traveling got on my nerves, and I wanted to get back to coding. So now I'm back in the software development department. I didn't have much experience with Lua, just a little bit, but it's easy enough to grasp and pick up. So and most of what we need to learn right now is about the Tabletop Simulator ABI. Which, some of the documentation is better than than others. So some functions are well documented, others I find a bit difficult, and the units they use seem to be a bit over the place. So that can be a challenge sometimes, but otherwise it's easy enough to get into, and it's fun. And from the work I've done, maybe starting at the end, I had the same thing. Or the same thought as Mika had when I read the announcement about this attach functionality. I was like, oh man, this is great. Yeah, we need that. By that point, I had already done a couple of things. And then I think the very same day, I saw Mika write about this on the Discord channel. And so I reached out to him and said, hey, well, I had the same idea. Should we cooperate? I've already done a couple of things. And that's how we started to cooperate on this.
And for those that haven't checked into Tabletop Simulator, at least for the Song of Ice and Fire mod in a while, you've made incredible improvements to the tray functionality. So how would you kind of explain the changes that you've made for those of people who haven't come back because maybe they thought it was a clunky experience before? How have the changes you've made kind of improved the quality of life of playing in this mode?
Yeah, I think they're pretty small changes, and really, when you look at the initial code, there wasn't really that much that I've done. A lot of the stuff was already there. So the first thing I thought of was the conditions panel, and with the activation token, order token, and the conditions. That panel was already there, but you would activate individual conditions by dropping a condition token onto the tray. and that was really clunky. Often you would hit the miniature instead of the tray, so you had to pick it up, drop it again until it eventually stuck. And the other thing that I thought was really annoying was the fact that you could only click on them to deactivate them again from one side, essentially. So that you always had to do your opponent's trace, and they had to do yours. And so I thought that was quite annoying when I first started playing with the tabletop simulator, thanks to the COVID-19 pandemic.
That's the one positive thing that came out of all of this,
Yeah,
I guess.
exactly. Otherwise, I might not. I mean, I had it, on my disk for quite a while, but never really gone to look into it. But now, since our, once a week meetup didn't really work out anymore, a friend and I decided to meet up via tabletop simulator. So yeah, I just had a look at what Z Games has done and at the panel, and figured out that this is actually pretty simple to just, make it visible all the time. And then I loaded up some different images just to make sure that they are, for one, look a little bit nicer, and that we now have these gray, so inactive and active icons to be able to discern that. I also made sure that you can now click on it from both sides. It's a bit weird the way it's done, but as a user, you don't have to worry about that as long as it does work. And I immediately felt, okay, this is quite useful. Why not display it all the time? It's just a lot easier and pretty straightforward. The next thing I did was the filling the tray. So to have a quicker way of initially deploying, because I wasn't really ready to build something like an army builder or whatever. So it was an easy way to just fill your tray with.
Trust me, don't build army builder. That takes way more time than you think. And it's
I had a look at
sinkhole.
exactly. I had a look at what the guys from the Legion mod did, and this is really sophisticated. So, and I think that would be a lot of effort. So I just, try to learn some things and, take it easy. So this was also a fairly simple and straightforward function. And the next thing was just the names, show the name of the unit on the flag. I thought that could be useful. Also, if somebody does streaming, it's a little bit easier to see what, which unit is being moved. And then the other stuff was not really coding related, just small things like a first player token, round token, like things where I thought, okay, why are they missing? Faith tokens. I brought in, a while back, I designed these game mode overview cards. So I brought those in as a deck, so you can, first of all, as a rules reference, but you can also use them to randomize the game mode you want to play.
Yep.
So small stuff like that. It wasn't really that much. I think actually what Brian did is way more impressive. So this is, digging through how the JSON files are structured, and which I guess you have to put in the path to the meshes that must be. So it gets a bit technical, but to the images. So I think that must have been a gargantuan effort, really, compared to what I did so far, to be honest.
Definitely not.
So the crazy thing is, Brian, you're gonna like share your secrets here, because I'm used to having a situation where it's like, hey, like I want to try and make this change. I'm having a hard time doing it. Can you help me out and do this thing? And then it'll be like 2-3 weeks. Someone will like be like, oh yeah, like I got this. I helped out with this, and it's done. With Brian, it's like, hey, there's this idea, and he'll be like, that's a really interesting idea. And the next day he'll be like, hey, here's this thing. And I'm like, wait, you did it? Like I was talking about the idea. So not to sell short, but man, Brian, you've taken on some Herculean tasks here. In addition to doing Song of Ice and Fire Builder and like helping with the redesign and cleaning up of that, people have seen it maybe becoming more mobile friendly. Talk us through what you did here with Tabletop Simulator.
Sure. So, as mentioned, I introduced the export feature for Tabletop Simulator. It was actually not as bad as I thought. I at first I thought, I'd have to sort of figure out how Tabletop works and what, hook into all the different scripts and stuff. But as it turns out, each file that Tabletop Simulator uses to load content is a pretty simple JSON format, which is just a way of representing each individual model and all the trays and all of that. So I realized every thing is represented in a relatively straightforward way. So just with a few, I have my sample miniature, I have my sample tray, and it's all the properties are sort of accessible in there. So I can basically put that tray wherever I want, and then duplicate them, and duplicate the models, and use the right images on them, change the colors, basically everything. So it really is the way that Tabletop Simulator kind of structures its files. It's pretty accessible.
Are you having fun with all the exceptions? I know just from the builder side of things, where I'm like, oh, actually, the skin changers, you don't actually select your animal till you put them on the table, and all these weird exceptions. Or what was the thing going on as well with Arya, and then I think someone found Jorah Mormont, the old bear.
Yeah, that was just the hard one of the thing that was most time consuming is just going through all the different models and making sure that sort of their image lines up with the name and stuff. And so that was a complete that's all over the place. And I think it was just like, okay, we got pluralized names so it matches up, and okay, sometimes the whole name's not there in the file, but so I built a program that a simple bit of logic that would just run through the existing file that had everything in it and find all the corresponding names of things and their images. So I just do, okay, I try to map off of a subsection, some part of it. So as long as it contained it, so the old bear or whatever, and I found, I found, oh yeah, bear is contained in the old bear, so here's a bear image, or here's a wolf image.
Yeah, Arya, the wolf girl. That was she was a wolf.
When I first saw that, I was like, wait, is this intentional? Is that?
And then I can, my limited ability to help out in any way, it just makes things more complicated when it's like trying to crop some images, and I uploaded Belwas, the veteran pit fighter. So like the day we launched, that got dropped. So we're like, we'll throw it in there. And my image that I uploaded was like half the size of the other ones for some reason. So he was just like this little petite attachment that like stuck on the thing. Just a really short, squat guy. It has since been fixed, but glad I could make these more complicated for you.
Sure. I think it just, made things more entertaining.
But I think, man, between a lot of that, I think it has definitely upped the play experience. I think that's been the nicest thing. Is, to be frank, I wasn't really a big fan of Tabletop Simulator, especially for this game before. I think some of the nice things about the game is that you can sit down and play it relatively quickly. And I found that I was like spending so much time like assembling my army or like dumping my tray. And, so I'd be playing games that were like 2 or 3 times longer than what a normal game would take to play, because I was like having to go, undo and like fix things. And this is like drop that timeline so dramatically. So I think, that's been amazing. And thank you guys for everything that you've all done. Are there what's been the reaction to what you guys have done so far by the community? How do you feel like it's been received?
Positively, definitely.
Yeah. I was surprised by the positive feedback, especially on our end, because I thought it was, fairly small contribution, but yeah, people really seem to like it. And I think that from my perspective, the bigger impact right now is definitely the list builder integration. This is just fantastic, because setting up your armies, that was really an annoying thing with the way it was laid out before. It really took a while. So this is a massive thing. Yeah.
And I think once again, collectively, how much time is saved in the game.
Yeah.
Are there things that you would like to implement in the future? Are there any like kind of pie in the sky wish list sort of things? You're like, man, if you had infinite time and resources, you're like, this would be a cool thing to do.
For me, I'm actually at the moment working with the pivoting. So what I feel that is the currently most frustrating and downtime causing when you play the actual game. And actually, I think it was somebody in the Discord chat that actually mentioned this also to me. That it's actually, when you think of how the tray currently works, that when you need to pivot, you press a button that says pivot on the tray, and then it says that pivot left or pivot right. Then you click pivot left, and then the tray moves, so the button moves with it. So if you need to do a full 180, it's going to be many clicks and mouse moves until you get to the position that you want. So that's a quite big downtime, or let's say flow interruption to the game at the moment. So I'm looking for solutions that, and actually I have a proof of concept solution working already, but it's not, it has, of course, bringing always, when we create something new or different, it brings other issues. So I'm now trying to kind of kill those problems that this new solution causes. But it's this kind of global UI solution that actually you can draw elements and UI components on the front of your screen, so that they are not actually tied to any element of the table or object on the table, but it's actually on your screen, just like the UI of the Tabletop simulator. So that's going to be a lot faster when the button kind of remains on one place, just like the slider actually currently. And then I noticed that it's very common when you pivot, you actually need to know different rulers. So rulers are those things in the Tabletop Simulator mod that kind of are those white, when you press the attack button, you get kind of that range, that's where you can attack. Or when you move, you get that move track into the all major directions. Or when you do other aligning, you get that cross. So I also am adding a buttons that would kind of, you can cycle through the different rulers. So when you, on the fly, when you pivot, so now when you use the pivot, you need to kind of end the pivot, press the done, and then press attack if you want to see the attack angles. Then you notice that, oh, I pivoted too far, now I need to again start pivoting, and it's kind of going forth and back. So I'm kind of looking for a solution in this pivoting where you get that pivoting faster with the buttons that stay on place, and then get to see the rulers also on the fly, that you can check the angles of your attack or your movement, the rulers at the same time when you pivot.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, that's kind of my philosophy, to try to select the most annoying things. Of course, these are subjective, so to me that's most annoying at the moment. So that's what I'm trying to now fix.
Oh, that's definitely something that's annoying. That's great.
Yeah, this is going to be really nice. Especially, it helps you to get the optimal, orientation, to just get that charge in without having to roll a, whatever to get the number down a little bit. This is going to be really good. Yeah,
I've actually had some people comment about dice in that game. Do you guys think that the dice, selecting everything and hitting R a few times, is that truly random? Do you guys know? Because I heard some people say that they feel like the dice rolls are a little bit wonky in there because they're physics based.
I couldn't say for sure. I don't know. It looks random enough to me, but
my understanding is that if you press the R button, it is random. If you don't press the R, but because you in theory could roll the dice by kind of just swinging your mouse, that might not be random.
Okay.
But the R button should be random, because it is a random function.
Yeah, I think of that Legion, the Star Wars Legion mod. Big fan of that. I think they've been developing that for a long time. I know they have a dice roller. I'm wondering if there's a reason for that, but maybe it's just to generate the types of dice, since they use specialty dice.
I actually personally have kind of thought about that, but that hasn't been a priority,
right?
Because I know that people that kind of they have accepted to play Tabletop Simulator, but still kind of some people. Then I know people that actually like to roll outside of Tabletop Simulator using a video call. Even I know those people, but then there are some people that if we would just create a button that says that now let's roll dice, and that machine would do the rolling for themselves, it might take something away from some of the players. But of course, those players don't have to use that button. They still could use the normal dice and stuff. So at least I'm somewhat interested in that, but it's not the topmost item in my list at the moment.
I've definitely been contacted by groups that were saying they wanted to set up cameras so they could roll outside of Tabletop Simulator, and I was like, "There's got to be an easier way. Like the dice are in there." And I was like, maybe if they're not random, maybe there's another way. But so it sounds like they are random.
They are random, but there would be, of course, other benefits because there is a bit problem, of course, in the game because at the moment, well, Tabletop Simulator is meant to be a tabletop simulator, so of course it is not a such computer game, but maybe we could add some kind of chat. In the chat, we could print things there. So if I would be to create some kind of rolling button, of course, it would also kind of print somehow to the chat log or even as a broadcast text that, hey, these actually were the rolling results.
Right.
Because sometimes you might miss that, hey, no, roll the panic. And okay, I rolled it already 10 seconds ago. Didn't you hear the noise that it makes? And kind of it's to kind of lessen the suspicion that did he really roll that panic test or is it just cheating? So
you can't trust these people on the internet.
Exactly, yeah. So that kind of dice roller would benefit even that you could print the results that, hey, this is actually the result. And of course you could, if you make an UI for it, then you can tell that, hey, now I'm looking for +3 that roll 7 dices and what I want is 3+. And then there could be a quick buttons that reroll or misses or reroll or passes, or then there would have to be, of course, also a selection box that you can select exactly the dice that you want to reroll in case you are looking for double sixes or kind of those kind of things. But so it suddenly becomes a bit bigger than just printing the results of the dice. So yeah, I have some ideas myself, but there is also, I know that there are some kind of dice solutions, because there is in the Tabletop Simulator, if you go to the workshop and start kind of searching for dice with the keyword dice, you can find a lot of pre-made stuff. But I must admit that I haven't myself found a perfect ready-made solution that would fit the A Song of Ice and Fire game perfectly, at least. But it is still possible that actually maybe somebody has made similar thing already for some other game, because the dice rolling mechanic of this game, it isn't actually that unique. Quite many games roll the dice with the same kind of methodology than this game.
Brian, how about you? Any thoughts of things that you'd like to pie in the sky, implement in the future?
Well, I have I already have a request for the next thing, which are just cards for all the different units and NCUs and all that. Pie in the sky. I think, we might as well generate the scenario features. We could probably easily do that, where we can put those automatically, save that as an object and put that on the table. But yeah, I think that might make people's lives a little easier. Any ideas are always greatly appreciated, because obviously, you know what you need more than I do. So yeah, if anyone sees me in any of the chats, please, send me your ideas, because I'm happy to try to implement whatever I can to make people's lives easier. As I play War Machine, and I feel like, now that I've done this for this tabletop simulator generator exporter, it'd be great to have something similar like that in War Machine. So I think they use more Vassal there than tabletop simulators. So I could look to see what I can do for that. But yeah, please send ideas my way, and I'll try to implement it, do my best I can to implement anything.
I know we've been talking about the trigger feature for A Song of Ice and Fire Builder. I don't know if that would translate into Tabletop Simulator. Right now, we've got it all written out, so all the triggers for every tactics cards, and we thought it might be useful to have those generate with your list, so you could just look at a glance and see what are all the triggers this army has to be aware of. And then I guess down the line, the goal is to be able to then compare those triggers against other cards to figure out what has priority. So if you're wondering about like timing events, we could, auto provide a solution. But I guess that wouldn't really be displayable in Tabletop Simulator. Yeah, I don't know. But
yeah, I don't know. Maybe something to actually a small card that shows the army list or something.
Oh,
so
yeah.
that you can show to your opponent or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Here's
something.
That's amazing. Good idea there.
Actually, yeah, we have that tablet, which would be great for that. Well,
yeah.
Okay, maybe not great, because I don't think you can actually sign on to a Song of or to our site. You can't log in. You
authenticate.
Yeah, I don't think you can authenticate normally with that, at least through Google, with Google. I'm not sure if you can, I haven't tried authenticating with, the old method of email and stuff. So you might be able to do that, in which case
Hmm.
you can then show your army
Yeah.
to other people, use a table, the tools to generate, randomly generate the scenery and all that. And yeah, maybe display your army to people.
Mm.
Well, I'm excited for the what are we gonna have coming down the line for units and seeing how will that work with stuff we've got here. Are we gonna see any new fancy things? I know there was a spoiler that there was someone released an item list of like other units that will be released this year, and there was a Targaryen box that said Mother Dragons, and I'm wondering, are we gonna see dragons that are siege based templates? Are they gonna be NCUs? Are they gonna just be tokens? Are they going to be solo monsters, their own unit tray, or something entirely different? So I'm wondering how that'll all play in the future with what we've got.
Yeah,
Hopefully,
that's
hopefully it doesn't break anything too much.
hopefully not. Yeah, on my end, I'm currently working mostly on small stuff, but one thing in terms of features that I have on my list is actually have a zone where you drop the game mode card and it then automatically spawns. So similar to
Oh,
what
that's a
Brian
great
has said,
idea.
but since since the cards are already in there, that might be something useful. And then put like in the game modes where you need to put your own tokens down, put the tokens into the player's hand or something small. But I mean, again, this is all, I guess,
Yeah.
minor stuff. What would be great would be a siege engine tray. Unfortunately, I don't know how to operate a 3D modeling
Yes, that would be
program, so,
very needed
but
for.
that would be a good thing. Yeah, that's really lacking at the moment.
How
Yeah,
does
I agree with that.
how does the
The
Scorpion trade generate now, Brian?
The Scorpion.
War
Oh,
Machine.
I've just I have just attached one tray to another tray.
So it's two solo bases right now.
It is
Yeah.
two solo bases. It's not the most elegant solution, but it sort of works.
So if any 3D modelers out there want to take a stab at making a siege weapon, you could send it our way, and we'll spread it out to everybody and make sure it gets in the mod.
Yeah, that would be just something that's double the size of solo with one slot for the item, and then maybe another slot for an attachment or something. I don't know.
Yeah. So now, as we start to wrap things up here, so how can the community help everybody going forward? Is there anything that you're looking for? I mean, obviously, someone to do a 3D generated siege weapon tray, but are there any other things that people in the Discord or in the Facebook group or listeners might be like, hey, I can add to this?
The big thing that's already coming in is really testing and helping find all the quirks and issues so that we can go ahead and fix those. So that's really appreciated. The other thing, and I guess maybe that's not as important anymore with the list build integration, but just keeping the units in your releases updated. So I
Yeah.
mean, that's the things that Corin, for example, did. So it would be great if he'd continue to do that, and I think he already signaled that he'd be happy to. I think that's the main things right now where people could really contribute from my point of view.
I agree with Sebastian's list that and including that 3D stuff. So I'm not a graphical person myself, and so on. So I cannot really do much about those things. So that would be nice to find someone who is happy to do some 3D modeling.
Absolutely. And once again, guys, thank you so much. And thanks to the people who have been carrying the flag for this for so long as well. I think it's been maintained at a certain level. And when you guys came along, it was just enough manpower to like make this tipping point where I think things are really exploding and taking off. And especially with the current world situation with COVID-19, being able to, to hop on and play a game that we all love remotely in maybe a secondary format, right? It's never going to replace actually being there around the table with people. but it's really made that much more enjoyable and possible. So thank you guys so much.
Yeah,
Thanks.
and I have to give a shout out to the community. The response was just so kind and really it really keeps us going and motivated. So yeah, thanks guys for that.
I think we can safely say that A Song of Ice and Fire has one of the best communities for games. All right, any shout outs before we head off?
Oh yeah, our local gaming store here in Bremen in Germany, Highlander Games. I think they can, use all the help they can get right now. It's a hard time for gaming stores.
Absolutely. So if I'm ever out in your neck of the world, I'll have to stop by.
Yeah.
All right. So with that being said, thanks so much for coming on. And we're looking forward to seeing what kind of new stuff is in the works and coming out on the line. And if you're out there, grab some games on Tabletop Simulator if you haven't already. And in the meantime, I hope you get your miniatures on the table.